Her love for a Lakota warrior destroyed every obstacle. They built paradise from nothing. Eliza grew up in a quiet farming town where most days looked the same. The mornings began with the sound of roosters and the smell of fresh soil, and the evenings ended with families sitting together on porches as the sun went down. People in her town believed in hard work, simple living, and following the paths their parents had followed. Many were happy with that life, but Eliza always felt a gentle restlessness in her heart. She loved her home and respected its traditions, yet she often wondered what lay beyond the long roads that stretched past the fields. From a young age, she enjoyed reading. Books were her way of traveling without leaving home. She read about distant places, different cultures, and people who lived in ways she had never seen. Sometimes she imagined herself walking through those places, meeting those people, and learning their stories. Her parents were kind and supportive, but they also believed in stability. They hoped she would find a steady job nearby, settle down, and live close to family. Eliza understood their wishes, yet a small voice inside her kept saying there was more waiting for her. After finishing school, she worked in a local store for a while. The work was honest and the people were friendly, but she felt like she was standing still. One afternoon, she saw a notice about a seasonal job at a cultural heritage center in another state. The center welcomed visitors from all over and shared the history and traditions of Native communities. The idea of working there made her heart beat faster. It felt like the kind of place where she could learn and grow. She hesitated at first because it meant leaving her comfort zone, but after many nights of thinking, she decided to apply. When she got the job, her family was both proud and worried. They helped her pack and reminded her to stay safe and work hard. The day she left, the sky was bright and clear. As she drove away from the town she had always known, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She did not know exactly what waited for her, but she knew she was ready to see more of the world. The Heritage Center was surrounded by wide-open land and tall trees. It felt peaceful and welcoming. The buildings were simple but full of history. Each space held stories, art, and items that spoke of generations past. On her first day, Eliza walked through the grounds with quiet curiosity. She noticed the sound of wind moving through the grass and the calm rhythm of the place. It felt very different from her busy thoughts and the routine she had left behind. That was where she first saw Daniel. He was standing near one of the exhibit areas, speaking to a small group of visitors. His voice was steady and warm, and he spoke with care. He explained the meaning behind certain traditions and the importance of remembering where one comes from. The visitors listened closely, and even after they left, his words seemed to stay in the air. Eliza did not interrupt. She simply observed from a distance, feeling a quiet respect for the way he spoke and carried himself. Later that day, she was introduced to him as one of the guides and educators at the center. He greeted her with a polite smile and a calm nod. Their first conversation was simple. He asked where she was from and how she liked the place so far. She told him she was still taking everything in and felt lucky to be there. He told her that the land had a way of teaching patience and that everyone learned at their own pace. His words were gentle but meaningful. In the days that followed, they crossed paths often. Eliza helped organize exhibits and greeted visitors, while Daniel led tours and shared stories. Whenever she had questions about something in the center, he answered with patience. He never rushed his explanations. Instead, he spoke as if every detail mattered. She admired that about him. He seemed grounded and thoughtful, someone who valued depth over speed. One afternoon, after most of the visitors had left, Eliza found herself sitting on a bench, overlooking the open land. Daniel happened to pass by and asked if she was enjoying the quiet. She admitted that she was still adjusting to everything but felt peaceful there. He sat down at a respectful distance and they began talking. At first, they spoke about work and daily tasks. Then the conversation slowly shifted to personal dreams and experiences. Daniel shared that he had grown up facing challenges but had always felt a strong connection to his culture and community. He believed in keeping traditions alive and helping others understand them. He did not speak with pride or sadness, just honesty. Eliza listened carefully, appreciating how open he was. She told him about her small town and how she had always wanted to explore more of life. She admitted that coming to the center felt like stepping into a new chapter. As the sun began to set, they realized they had been talking for a long time. The sky turned soft shades of orange and pink, and a calm silence settled around them. Neither of them felt the need to rush away. That evening marked the beginning of a quiet friendship. They did not know what it would become, but they both felt that their conversations brought a sense of clarity and comfort. Over the next few weeks, their friendship grew naturally. They started sharing small moments, like walking along the river after work or sitting near the fire pit on cool evenings. Sometimes they talked about serious topics, and other times they simply enjoyed the quiet. Eliza appreciated Daniel's calm nature. He did not try to impress anyone or pretend to be something he was not. He listened carefully and spoke with intention. Daniel, in turn, respected Eliza's curiosity and kindness. She asked thoughtful questions and showed genuine interest in learning. There were times when they disagreed or saw things differently, but those moments only deepened their understanding of each other. They learned how to listen without judgment and how to speak honestly without causing hurt. Each conversation built a little more trust. They began to look forward to seeing each other each day, even if it was just for a short greeting. One evening, as they watched the stars appear in the clear sky, they spoke about the future. Daniel shared his dream of creating a place where people could reconnect with the land and find peace. He did not know exactly how it would happen, but he believed it was possible. Eliza listened and felt a spark of inspiration. She told him that she wanted a life filled with purpose, not just routine. She wanted to build something meaningful, even if it took time and effort. In that quiet moment, both of them sensed that their meeting had changed something inside them. They did not rush into anything or make big promises. Instead, they continued to get to know each other, allowing their connection to grow at its own pace. The land around them felt like a witness to their conversations, holding their hopes and dreams in its open spaces. As the summer moved forward, Eliza realized that the job she had taken for a short adventure had become something much more. It had introduced her to new perspectives, new friendships, and a person who seemed to understand her in ways she had not expected. Daniel also felt the change. He had met many people through his work, but Eliza's presence brought a sense of calm and possibility. Neither of them knew what challenges might come, or how their paths would unfold. For now, they focused on the present, on learning, working, and sharing moments of quiet understanding. What began as a simple meeting at a heritage center slowly turned into a connection that would shape their lives in ways they could not yet see. As the weeks turned into months, Eliza and Daniel's friendship grew stronger and more meaningful. What had started as simple conversations during work hours slowly became something deeper. They began to understand each other's habits, thoughts, and hopes for the future. They did not rush into anything. Instead, they allowed their bond to grow in a calm and natural way. They both knew that strong connections take time, trust, and patience. Eliza found herself looking forward to each new day at the Heritage Center. She enjoyed her work, but she also enjoyed the moments she spent talking with Daniel. They often met in the early mornings before visitors arrived. Sometimes they walked quietly through the grounds, noticing the way the light fell across the land. Other times they shared tea and talked about their plans and worries. Their conversations were honest and thoughtful. Neither of them tried to impress the other. They simply spoke from the heart. Daniel respected the way Eliza approached everything with care. She listened closely when he spoke about traditions and community values. She never assumed she understood everything. Instead, she asked gentle questions and tried to learn. Daniel appreciated her patience. He knew that understanding between people from different backgrounds does not happen overnight. It takes time and effort. He saw that Eliza was willing to put in that effort, and it meant a lot to him. As their connection deepened, they began to think about what it would mean to build a future together. This thought brought both excitement and concern. They knew that their backgrounds were different, and that people in their lives might not understand their bond right away. Even so, they believed that honesty and respect could guide them through any difficulty. They agreed to be open with the people they cared about, even if the conversations might be hard. When Eliza first told her family about Daniel, she spoke with hope but also nervousness. She described him as kind, thoughtful, and dedicated to his community. At first, her parents listened quietly. They trusted their daughter, but they also worried. They wondered how the differences in culture, location, and lifestyle might affect her future. They asked careful questions about his work and his goals. Eliza answered honestly. She explained that they were taking things slowly and learning from each other. Some members of her family were supportive right away. They believed that if Daniel treated her well and respected her, then they should give him a chance. Others were more cautious. They worried that the relationship might bring challenges that would be hard to handle. They did not want Eliza to face hardship or misunderstanding. Their concerns came from love, but it still made things difficult. Eliza felt torn between wanting her family's approval and wanting to follow her heart. Daniel faced similar conversations with people in his own life. His community valued tradition and close relationships. Some people were open-minded and curious about Eliza. They wanted to know more about her and how she approached life. Others were unsure. They wondered if someone from outside their culture could truly understand their ways. Daniel did not take their concerns personally. He understood that trust has to be built over time. He spoke with honesty and patience, explaining that Eliza respected their traditions and wanted to learn. These early reactions created moments of doubt for both of them. There were evenings when they sat together in silence, thinking about the future. They asked themselves if they were strong enough to handle the pressure. They knew that relationships are not only about two people. They also involve families, communities, and shared expectations. For a short time, the weight of those thoughts felt heavy. One evening after a long day of work, they walked along the river near the Heritage Center. The water moved slowly, reflecting the colors of the sky. Eliza admitted that she felt worried about disappointing her family. Daniel listened carefully and then shared his own concerns about balancing tradition with personal choice. They realized that both of them were facing similar fears. Instead of letting those fears push them apart, they decided to face them together. They promised to communicate openly and to support each other no matter what happened. Financial concerns soon became another challenge. The Heritage Center offered meaningful work, but it was not always steady. Seasonal changes affected visitor numbers, and sometimes hours were reduced. Eliza had left a stable job in her hometown to stay near Daniel. She did not regret her choice, but she knew it meant living more simply. They both learned to budget carefully, saving what they could and avoiding unnecessary spending. They moved into a small rental space near the center. It was modest but comfortable enough for their needs. They cooked simple meals, shared chores, and made the most of what they had. Instead of seeing their limited resources as a problem, they tried to see it as a lesson in teamwork. Every small success, like paying bills on time or saving a little extra, felt like a victory. They reminded each other that strong foundations are built step by step. Friends and co-workers had mixed reactions to their growing relationship. Some admired their dedication and encouraged them to keep going. Others questioned whether they were making things too complicated for themselves. A few suggested that it might be easier to focus on separate paths. Eliza and Daniel listened politely, but did not let outside opinions control their choices. They understood that people often speak from their own experiences and fears. What mattered most was the trust they were building with each other. There were moments when exhaustion and stress tested their patience. On particularly hard days, they felt the pressure of work, finances, and expectations all at once. Sometimes small disagreements turned into longer discussions. But even during those moments, they tried to remain respectful. They learned that it was okay to take a step back, breathe, and return to the conversation with calm minds. Over time, these experiences taught them how to handle conflict in a healthy way. Slowly, small signs of support began to appear. Eliza's parents agreed to meet Daniel during a visit. The meeting was a little awkward at first, but Daniel's calm and respectful manner made a positive impression. He listened carefully to their questions and spoke about his values and goals. By the end of the visit, there was a sense of cautious acceptance. It was not complete approval, but it was a step forward. Daniel's community also began to see Eliza's sincerity. She attended gatherings with humility and listened more than she spoke. She showed respect for traditions and asked for guidance when she was unsure. People noticed her effort and appreciated her willingness to learn. Trust did not appear overnight, but it began to grow slowly. As the months passed, Eliza and Daniel realized that every challenge they faced was also an opportunity to grow. They learned to stand up for each other while still respecting the people around them. They learned that building a shared life requires more than love. It requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to adapt. Despite the obstacles, they found moments of joy in simple things. They laughed over shared meals, worked side by side on small projects, and spent quiet evenings talking about their dreams. Those moments reminded them why they had chosen this path. They were not trying to create a perfect life. They were trying to create a real one, built on honesty and effort. One night, as they sat under a clear sky filled with stars, they spoke about the future again. This time, their voices carried more confidence. They knew that challenges would continue to appear, but they also knew that they had already overcome many. They felt stronger as a team than they did alone. That realization gave them hope. Their journey was still in its early stages, and many questions remained unanswered. But they had learned something important. Obstacles do not always mean the end of a path. Sometimes they are simply part of the process of building something lasting. With that understanding, Eliza and Daniel continued moving forward together, step by step, ready to face whatever came next. As the seasons changed, Eliza and Daniel's lives began to settle into a steady rhythm. The early excitement of their friendship had grown into a deeper understanding. They had already faced doubts from others, financial worries, and the challenge of blending two different backgrounds. Yet instead of drifting apart, those experiences brought them closer. They learned that trust is not something that appears overnight. It grows slowly through daily actions, kind words, and shared effort. Eliza became more comfortable at the Heritage Center and in the surrounding community. At first, she had worried about making mistakes or saying the wrong thing. She wanted to show respect and did not want to seem careless. Over time, she realized that honesty and humility mattered more than perfection. She began helping with small events, assisting visitors, and learning from the elders who visited the center. She listened carefully when people spoke about traditions and values. She asked thoughtful questions and showed genuine interest. Daniel noticed her dedication and felt proud of how she approached everything. He knew that earning trust in a community takes patience. He encouraged her when she felt unsure and reminded her that learning is a lifelong process. Together, they attended gatherings and helped with community projects. Sometimes they worked side by side, setting up spaces for meetings or preparing simple meals for visitors. These shared tasks allowed them to connect with others in natural ways. Many people in the community began to see Eliza not as an outsider, but as someone who truly wanted to understand. They saw her willingness to listen and her respect for traditions. Some elders shared stories with her about the past and the importance of preserving culture. She treated every story like a gift. She never rushed the conversations or treated them lightly. This careful approach slowly built trust. At the same time, Eliza continued to share parts of her own background. She spoke about her small hometown, her family, and the lessons she had learned growing up. She did not try to compare or replace anything. She simply shared her experiences honestly. This exchange helped create a sense of balance. It was not about one person changing for the other. It was about both of them learning and growing together. Daniel's respect for Eliza deepened as he saw her efforts. He knew that many people would not have been as patient or open-minded. He admired her courage in stepping into a new environment and building connections slowly. He also felt grateful that she never tried to change who he was. She supported his commitment to his culture and his community. That support gave him confidence. One evening, as they sat near a small fire with a few friends, someone asked them about their future plans. The question was simple, but it made them pause. They had talked about their dreams many times in private, but saying them out loud felt different. Daniel spoke first. He shared his long-held wish to create a peaceful place where people could reconnect with the land and find quiet reflection. He imagined a space where traditions could be honored and shared respectfully. Eliza listened with a warm smile because she had heard this dream before. She believed in it just as much as he did. When it was her turn to speak, she said that she wanted to help build something meaningful. She did not want a life that felt empty or rushed. She wanted a place where people could learn, rest, and feel welcome. As they spoke, they realized that their dreams were not separate. They were connected. Both of them wanted to create something lasting and positive. That night, after everyone else had gone home, they talked more about what such a place might look like. They imagined simple buildings, open land, and a garden where people could gather. They talked about workshops, quiet retreats, and opportunities for learning. They did not have all the answers or the resources yet, but they felt a sense of direction. For the first time, their future felt like a shared project rather than just an idea. Turning dreams into reality, however, was not easy. They knew that planning something like this would require time, money, and support. They started by saving whatever they could from their work. They created a small budget and set aside funds each month. It was not much, but it was a start. They also began talking to people they trusted about their vision. Some friends offered advice. Others shared stories about similar projects and the effort required. A few people even expressed interest in helping when the time came. During this period, they continued building trust within the community. Eliza attended more gatherings and helped with events. She learned small phrases in the local language and practiced them carefully. Each effort showed her respect and commitment. Daniel introduced her to more people, always making sure she felt comfortable. Slowly, she began to feel less like a visitor and more like someone who belonged. There were still challenges, of course. Not everyone understood their plans. Some people worried that they were taking on too much. Others questioned whether they could manage such a big project. Eliza and Daniel listened to these concerns without becoming discouraged. They understood that people often worry because they care. Instead of arguing, they focused on showing through their actions that they were serious and responsible. At home, they spent evenings working on ideas. They sketched simple layouts and wrote down goals. They talked about what kind of environment they wanted to create. They agreed that the place should feel peaceful and welcoming, not crowded or rushed. They wanted visitors to feel connected to nature and to each other. They also wanted to make sure that everything they built respected the land and its history. Sometimes their plans felt overwhelming. They would look at their notes and wonder if they were dreaming too big. On those nights, they reminded each other why they started. They remembered the feeling of calm they experienced when walking through open land or sitting by the river. They wanted to share that feeling with others. That reminder gave them strength. Their relationship continued to grow stronger through these shared efforts. They learned how to make decisions together and how to support each other during stressful moments. When one of them felt discouraged, the other offered encouragement. When they faced setbacks, they looked for solutions instead of giving up. This teamwork became the foundation of their bond. As time passed, small opportunities began to appear. They heard about a piece of land that might be available in the future. They visited it one afternoon and walked across the open space. It was not perfect. There were no buildings, and the ground needed work. But as they stood there, they felt a quiet sense of possibility. They imagined what it could become with patience and effort. They did not rush into any decisions. Instead, they continued saving money and building support. They talked to family members and trusted friends about their plans. Some offered encouragement. Others offered practical advice. Each conversation helped them refine their vision. They knew that building something meaningful required not just passion, but also careful planning. During this time, their bond with each other remained steady. They found joy in simple moments, like cooking together, watching sunsets, or sharing stories. Those moments reminded them that their relationship was the heart of everything they hoped to build. Without that strong connection, their plans would have little meaning. By the end of this stage in their journey, Eliza and Daniel felt more confident than ever. They had faced doubts, learned from challenges, and built trust with each other and with the people around them. Their dream of creating a shared space was still in its early stages, but it no longer felt distant. It felt possible. They knew there would be more work ahead and more obstacles to face. Yet they also knew that they had already built something important, a partnership based on respect, patience, and shared purpose. That foundation would guide them as they move forward into the next chapter of their lives. By the time Eliza and Daniel reached this stage in their journey, their shared dream no longer felt like a distant idea. It felt real and close, like something they could almost touch. They had spent many months planning, saving, and talking with the people they trusted. They had faced doubts, waited patiently, and learned from each challenge. Now they stood on the edge of something new. The next step was not easy, but they felt ready to take it together. One cool morning, they visited the piece of land they had been thinking about for a long time. The sky was wide and clear, and the air felt fresh. The land itself was simple and quiet. There were no buildings, no paths, and no signs of development. Just open space, tall grass, and a few scattered trees. Some people might have seen it as empty or difficult. But when Eliza and Daniel walked across it, they felt a deep sense of possibility. They did not speak much at first. Instead, they walked slowly, taking in every detail. They listened to the wind moving through the grass and watched the sunlight touch the ground. Daniel knelt and ran his hand through the soil, studying its texture. Eliza stood nearby, imagining what the land could become with time and care. After a while, they looked at each other and smiled. Without saying it directly, they both understood. This was the place where they wanted to begin building their future. Making the decision to move forward was both exciting and a little frightening. They knew that turning empty land into a welcoming space would require hard work, patience, and teamwork. They did not have endless resources or a large team of workers. What they had was determination and a strong partnership. They agreed to start small and take one step at a time. The first task was preparing the land. They spent long days clearing away rocks, trimming grass, and marking out areas for future plans. The work was physical and sometimes tiring, but they did it side by side. They learned how to use tools carefully and how to pace themselves so they would not become overwhelmed. Some days were easier than others. On certain mornings, the sun felt warm and encouraging. On other days, the weather was less friendly, and they had to push through discomfort. Still, they continued. Friends and a few supportive family members began to visit and offer help when they could. Some brought tools, others brought food and encouragement. Even small acts of support meant a lot. It reminded Eliza and Daniel that they were not alone in their efforts. Each visit brought new energy and hope. The land slowly started to change. What once looked like an untouched field began to show signs of life and intention.
They decided to build a small, simple home first.
It did not need to be large or fancy. It only needed to be strong, safe, and welcoming. They spent evenings studying basic construction methods and learning from people with experience. They asked questions, took notes, and practiced careful planning. When they finally began building, every piece of wood and every nail felt important. They measured carefully and worked slowly to avoid mistakes. There were moments when the work felt overwhelming. Sometimes they would stand back and look at the unfinished structure and wonder how long it would take to complete. But then they would remind each other why they started. They were not racing against time. They were building something meaningful. That thought helped them stay focused. As the walls of the small home began to take shape, their excitement grew. Each new addition made the vision clearer. They chose simple designs and natural materials whenever possible. They wanted the home to blend with the land rather than stand apart from it. They planted a small garden nearby, even before the house was fully finished. Watching the first green shoots appear from the soil gave them a sense of progress and hope. Life during this time was simple and sometimes challenging. They woke early, worked hard, and rested when they needed to. There were days when they felt tired and unsure. Unexpected costs appeared, and certain tasks took longer than planned. But instead of letting those moments discourage them, they treated them as lessons. They learned to adjust their plans, save carefully, and ask for advice when needed. As word spread about what they were building, more people became curious. Some came to visit the land and see the progress. They walked through the open space, asked questions, and shared ideas. Many were touched by the effort and sincerity they saw. Eliza and Daniel welcomed visitors warmly and explained their vision. They spoke about creating a peaceful place where people could learn, rest, and feel connected to nature. With time, they added a simple gathering area near the home. It was a place where people could sit together, share stories, and enjoy the quiet surroundings. They built benches and a small fire pit. On certain evenings, a few friends would gather there to talk and laugh. Those moments felt special. They reminded everyone that the land was not just about buildings. It was about connection and community. The work continued through changing seasons. In warmer months, they focused on outdoor projects like planting, clearing paths, and preparing spaces for future plans. In cooler months, they worked on the interior of the home and planned for the year ahead. Each season brought new challenges and new opportunities. They learned to adapt and to appreciate the rhythm of the land. Eliza found joy in the small details. She enjoyed watching the garden grow and arranging simple decorations inside the home. She kept notes about what worked well and what needed improvement. Daniel focused on maintaining the land and ensuring that every step they took respected its natural balance. He believed that caring for the land was just as important as building on it. Together, they created a routine that felt both productive and peaceful. Their relationship grew stronger through this shared effort. They learned to rely on each other in new ways. When one felt tired, the other offered encouragement. When one had an idea, they discussed it openly. They celebrated small successes, like finishing a section of fencing or completing a new path. These small victories built confidence and reminded them that progress was happening even if it was slow. There were still moments of doubt. On certain nights after long days of work, they would sit quietly and wonder if they could keep going. The responsibility sometimes felt heavy. But then they would look around at what they had already achieved. The once empty land now held signs of life and purpose. That realization gave them strength. Visitors who came to the land often commented on the peaceful feeling of the place. They noticed how the space invited calm and reflection. Some people stayed for short visits, while others returned more than once. Each visit brought new conversations and shared experiences. Eliza and Daniel listened to feedback and thought carefully about how to improve. They wanted the place to remain welcoming and respectful to everyone. As time passed, the land they had once seen as a blank canvas became a living part of their lives. The small home stood strong, the garden flourished, and the gathering space felt warm and inviting. It was not perfect, and there was still much to do. But it was real. It was the result of patience, effort, and shared belief. Looking back, Eliza and Daniel realized how far they had come. They remembered the early days of planning and the uncertainty they felt. They remembered the doubts from others and the challenges they had faced. Each obstacle had taught them something valuable. Each success, no matter how small, had moved them forward. They knew their journey was not finished. There were still dreams to pursue and improvements to make. But as they stood together on the land they had shaped with their own hands, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had turned an empty space into something full of meaning. They had built not just a home, but a foundation for a shared future. With steady determination and quiet confidence, they continued their work. Step by step, they moved closer to creating the peaceful place they had imagined. The path was not always easy, but it was theirs, and together they kept building, guided by hope and the belief that something beautiful could grow from even the simplest beginnings. Years of hard work, patience, and shared dreams finally began to bear fruit for Eliza and Daniel. The land they had nurtured, cleared, and built upon had transformed from a simple, empty field into a warm and inviting place. Every corner told a story. The small home that had risen from careful planning and labor, the garden that bloomed with life and color, and the gathering space where visitors could sit and feel peace. It was not a luxurious place, nor was it perfect, but it was theirs, and it reflected their values, their dedication, and their love. The early mornings were still filled with work, but now they carried a sense of accomplishment and joy. Daniel often walked through the garden while Eliza prepared breakfast, sharing small ideas for new projects. They planted more flowers, started a few small fruit trees, and cleared a path that would lead to a quiet pond nearby. Each addition to the land felt like a new chapter in their shared story. The rhythm of work and reflection had become part of their life, and they found joy in it. Visitors began coming more often, Some were curious about the place and its history, while others were looking for a quiet retreat from busy lives. Eliza and Daniel welcomed everyone with patience and warmth. They guided people around the land, explaining the meaning behind certain spaces, the stories of the trees and plants, and the history of the people who had lived in the region long before them. Visitors often remarked on the calm feeling they experienced there. Some stayed for short visits, others returned repeatedly, drawn to the sense of connection and care that Eliza and Daniel had poured into the land. As the place grew, Eliza found herself more deeply rooted in her surroundings. She had learned so much from Daniel and his community, about traditions, respect for the land, and the importance of patience. She shared what she had learned with visitors and helped them understand the deeper meaning behind every action they took. Daniel, in turn, relied on her insight and creativity. She had a way of seeing beauty in small details, turning simple spaces into welcoming corners, and making every visitor feel valued. Their partnership had become a seamless collaboration, balancing strength with sensitivity. Life was not without challenges. Weather could be harsh, unexpected repairs were needed, and financial pressures occasionally resurfaced. Some days, the weight of responsibility felt heavy. Yet they had learned over the years how to face difficulties together. When one of them grew tired or discouraged, the other offered support, encouragement, and perspective. The lessons they had learned during the earlier stages of their journey, about patience, persistence, and respect, had become their guiding principles. No obstacle felt insurmountable because they faced it side by side. Their families had also come to appreciate the life they had built. Eliza's parents, once unsure about her relationship with Daniel, now visited often. They saw firsthand the care, respect, and effort that had gone into every corner of the land. They noticed the way Daniel honored traditions and how Eliza contributed her creativity and patience. Through time, they realized that their daughter had found a partner who respected her and who shared her dreams. Similarly, Daniel's family began to see Eliza not as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely belonged and contributed meaningfully to the community. Through this shared life, they discovered that building a place for others also enriched their own lives. They found deep satisfaction in guiding visitors, seeing children explore the garden, and watching people quietly reflect in the gathering space. Every positive word or grateful smile reminded them why they had endured so many challenges. They realized that their dream had never been about personal comfort alone. It had been about creating something that could touch others' lives and leave a meaningful legacy. Eliza and Daniel also spent time dreaming about the future. They planned small expansions, like adding a workshop for cultural activities and learning sessions, and they considered a few guest cabins for those who wanted to stay longer. Every plan was carefully considered, and they discussed each detail together. They focused on simplicity, sustainability, and respect for the land. They wanted their paradise to grow naturally, in harmony with the environment and their values, rather than forcing it to fit someone else's idea of success. Their personal relationship also deepened in ways neither had anticipated. Living and working together on such a demanding project had taught them patience, empathy, and compromise. They learned to listen without judgment, speak honestly without blame, and find joy in shared effort. They knew each other's strengths and weaknesses and had learned to trust in those strengths. Their love was not just emotional, it was practical, grounded in mutual respect and shared purpose. It was the kind of love that could withstand obstacles, disagreements, and setbacks because it was rooted in understanding and commitment. At the end of each day after the work was done, they often sat together in the gathering space. Sometimes they talked about their achievements, other times about the challenges ahead, and occasionally they simply sat in quiet appreciation of the land and the life they had built. The setting sun painted the sky with soft colors, and the air carried the faint scent of flowers and earth. In those moments, there was a sense of peace that neither could find anywhere else. It was a reminder that paradise was not a place of luxury, but a place of meaning, care, and connection. Their story began with a chance meeting, a friendship that slowly grew into love, and two people daring to dream together despite doubts from the world around them. They had faced skepticism, financial challenges, cultural differences, and the immense task of creating something from nothing. Yet, through persistence, respect, and shared vision, They had built more than a home. They had built a sanctuary, a community, and a life filled with purpose. Years later, when visitors walked through their land, they could feel the care that had gone into every detail. They could sense the quiet strength of a partnership built on trust, patience, and love. Eliza and Daniel had created a space where people could learn, reflect, and find peace. More importantly, they had created a life that reflected their values and their dreams. They had learned that obstacles could be transformed into lessons, and empty land could become a paradise when guided by determination and heart. In the end, their story was more than just about the place they had built. It was about the journey, the growth, and the unshakable bond between two people who refused to let fear, doubt, or circumstance dictate their future. They had proven that with patience, love, and hard work, even the simplest beginnings could grow into something extraordinary. And for Eliza and Daniel, that was the truest form of paradise, a life built together, filled with meaning, hope, and endless possibility. Their journey continued, not as a tale of perfection, but as a testament to resilience, partnership, and the beauty of creating a life that honors both the land and the hearts of those who tend it. Each sunrise brought new work, each sunset brought quiet reflection, and each day reminded them that paradise was not given, it was made, slowly, patiently, and together.